The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Thank you to everyone for joining us once more on the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. And today we are going to discuss the government shutdown, which is ongoing. And I don't know, where are we? Day 36, 37? I've lost count. As we're recording, today is November 5th, the day after the fantastic blue wave election, which is fabulous. But now all the newly elected candidates have to begin to actually govern. And so I'm certainly hopeful that all will go well with that into as we start looking toward 2026 and those elections. So, Mark and Scott, your thoughts on the ongoing shutdown and the fact that Adelita Grijalva still has not been sworn in.
Anybody that does not think that the shutdown had some impact on the elections yesterday, I think you're kidding yourself. I truly do. I think you're kidding yourself, because the fact is that this shutdown, which, as you point out, Brooke, is the longest in history and seems to have no end in sight at this point in time. It's hurting a lot of people. It is hurting a lot. But we were talking last week in the podcast on how even in my state, South Carolina, where we have a Republican governor who is as about a Republican as you can get, who is putting out appeals to the people of the state to donate food and money to help people that were going to be losing their SNAP benefits. Now, so that tells me a couple of things. Number one, not all Republicans are exactly the same. Not all Republicans are Donald Trump, who doesn't give a shit if the poor people don't eat. Henry McMaster, and I don't agree with a whole bunch of his policies as governor, but at least he recognizes the potential of the disaster this could be. So sometimes we got to remember that not all Republicans are the same, and that there are Republicans that have heart. There are Republicans that actually care about people. And I'm sure a lot of people say they're few and far between, which, okay, you could say that if you want. as Scott is, as I'm watching Scott. But the fact is that they still exist out there. And I think that we have to understand that. So, yeah, this shutdown, it's hurting a lot of people. And we'll see where it goes. But right now, I don't see any end in it.
Yeah. I think it was Elon Musk who said that empathy was like a disease or something like that. I think that's the Republican way. That anybody who has empathy, they got it all wrong, and we need to steam on ahead and just this guy's about to become a trillionaire, and he doesn't give a shit about people at all. Look what happened to Grok when he decided to reprogram it using his own personality. It turned out to be to spout things that sounded just like a South African apartheid-raised Nazi that Elon Musk is. But I want to get back to the shutdown. I want to get back to the shutdown. The shutdown is one of the cases of chaos, right? It is Trump chaos. It is now the longest, and the second longest was in his first term. He doesn't know what he's doing. He himself said, even before he was a candidate, that if anybody shuts down the government, boy, that's got to be blamed on the president, because the president's the one who's got to take the lead on things. And look, I saw a great meme the other day. It was Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden all shaking hands and laughing. I don't know if it was an actual picture or somebody had put it together. And the idea was, what do these three men have in common? They all took a depressed economic disaster America, turned it around and turned it into something great, and then handed it off to another Republican who destroyed all their work. And to me, people of America, please understand the difference between these two parties is so stark. It is so qualitatively different. Believe it or not, Democrats have had the House, the Senate, and the White House for only 4 of the last 30 years. 2 years under Obama and 2 years under Biden. In that time, in those 4 years, you got the ACA, Obamacare. You got the largest infrastructure investment in history. You got a microchip manufacturing act. You got tax cuts for working families, billions of student loan debt eliminated. You got higher wages, low employment. You returned billions of dollars to consumers who were defrauded by businesses. And they collected billions in back taxes from the super rich, lowered childhood poverty, and cut childhood hunger by 40%. Okay? Not bad. Trump has now had 2 years of total control in his first term, and he's in the middle of those 2 years now. And all we've gotten is higher inflation, more debt, higher taxes, and the 2 longest government shutdowns in history. Can you get real, people? Can you understand what the data is telling you? Can you go out there? If you don't believe in quantitative data, can you go out and look qualitatively at the lines of people in California who were standing up to these shenanigans from the Republicans? It is such an amazing thing. Last night was such a great night for America. And yes, the shutdown had a huge part to play in it. And so did the masked men grabbing brown people and demanding to see their papers, something that I never thought we'd see in America. And the fact that Trump lost the Latino vote again last night. These are great things that are happening because there are Americans waking up to the reality that they voted for not once but twice. And now, the first time through, other people were able to keep him in check. This time, chaos rules. And America is suffering, and we're going to keep suffering. And I think the 2026 election is going to be a huge win for Democrats, both the Senate and the House. And I think that Trumpism begins to die in November of 2026, and that the next president, God willing, will be a Democrat, and that if the American people are smart, they will watch carefully as we rebuild this country yet again, and hopefully are smart enough to not turn it over to another Republican to destroy it again. That's what I think.
And you know what? And I understand, Scott being far more progressive and far more liberal than I am. I at this point in time, I would even take a center-right conservative at this point. Not this just absolutely off the wall kind of stuff that we've got going on today. And yeah, Scott, you put out the record very nicely. I mean, that's where we sit. And it amazes me how quickly Trump could have taken actually some of the good works. And that there was some things about the Biden presidency that probably didn't go as Biden and his people would have wanted. But the fact is that we didn't get hurt. No one was hurt by it. And the Obama presidency, the 8 years, no one was hurt by these things. I mean, even when we look at Bush, Bush too, his 8 years. Yes, we had the war. Yes, we had all that stuff, which was completely, uncalled for. And yeah, then we had the economic collapse. But that was more a result of the economic system than it was about government. That was more about the greed of the economic system than anything else that caused the crash of 2008. And, yes, were they asleep at the wheel? The government? Absolutely. They maybe could have done something. In hindsight, we don't know. But the fact is that even Bush did not intentionally, I think, try to hurt anybody. Trump seems to go out of his way. He seems to be going out of his way to cause misery to those people that aren't in his club. And I think the one thing that got me the other day, I saw he had a Great Gatsby kind of party going on as people were basically, you know, going to be starving or not have food. I mean, talk about a Marie Antoinette moment. Let them eat cake as he builds his gilded, ballroom and continues to put more bling, uh, in the White House than a rapper carries around his neck. I mean, it's just what good has that done you? The American people, those that
And
support Donald Trump. What has it done for you?
a pundit said something like it was a bad look, it was bad optics, it was tone deaf. No, ma'am, no, sir. It is not tone deaf. It is exactly what he wants to say. He wants to say, you know what, we got it all and you got nothing, and that's the way it should be. And screw you, I'm going to have a great time. And yeah, let him eat cake.
Yeah, and it's a shame, but unfortunately, people, this is what you voted for, and now you've got it. And hopefully, the election results of the past of yesterday, and we are recording this on Wednesday following the election day. Hopefully, that's a sign that maybe more people actually got the message of exactly what is going on, and we're going to see it this week. We're going to see a lot this week. We're going to see so much backtracking. We're going to see so much excuse making. We're going to see the most punchable face on the planet, as Scott describes the Speaker of the House. We're going to see him on there doing everything he can to make this look like something that it is not. What you're seeing is not real. What you're seeing is not for the reasons that everybody's saying or logic would say that this is happening for. This is for something totally different. And don't look behind the curtain. That famous Wizard of Oz, scenario as well. Don't look behind the curtain. Don't see the reality. And I think we're going to hear, and I'm really interested to hear all the unrealistic unrealities that we're going to be presented with, this week, because it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I would love. Let's do a little predicting. What do you think we're going to see out of Speaker Johnson and the rest of Republicans this week? And do you see anything at all that might suggest that this shutdown might come to an end and they might actually do what government's supposed to do, which is, negotiate and compromise? And where do you see this taking us?
Well, I mean, I've heard that that Republicans and Democrats in the Senate, not the leaders, but on a lower level, have been meeting to try to put something together to come to some kind of agreement. I'm not sure that that's true. I'm not sure it'll hold. I'm not sure that Trump won't veto it, or that, if it requires Johnson to do anything, that Johnson's going to bring back the House to vote on anything, because once he does, of course, that Congressperson elect from Arizona gets to be sworn in, has to be sworn in. He's run out of excuses on that. And that means that the Epstein files are coming out. And that means that there's going to be some pretty nasty stuff about Trump being said that is going to cost him, I think, even members of his base are going to, well, hopefully, I don't want to make this a prediction, but hopefully members of his base will begin to abandon him and realize that he's not a very good person and that he's committed atrocities against young women in the past. I'm not making a prediction, but what I will say is I don't think they're coming back. I think this is it. Trump has basically said, you know what, you guys did a great job. I don't need you anymore. I'm going to take it from here. And there's nobody pushing back on that. And that Gorsuch actually said that today in the Supreme Court. He actually asked, can you tell me what would happen if the president of the United States just basically dismissed the legislature and said, I don't need you anymore, and that the legislature went along with it. A Supreme Court judge asked that of the president's lawyer, one of the president's lawyers. And what a remarkable place for us to be in when it's even discussed that a branch of government is going away, is going home, never to come back again. And how, what a crazy place America is in right now that question could even be asked.
Yeah. Yeah. It is amazing, how far we've fallen. And I understand people get worried, they get scared. And the only thing I could say is that, and I know Scott thinks I'm being overly optimistic sometimes. Most of the time, Scott thinks I'm overly optimistic. We've got to have some faith in the system. I agree that having faith in the people is I lost a lot of my faith in the people in 2024. I didn't have a whole heck of a lot of faith in them in 2016, but I gave them the benefit of the doubt. And then I got faith back in 2020. And then in 2024, I looked at it and I said, boy, you people are really, wow, you've got to be kidding me. So now we're at the point where we have to see how this goes. And we've said this before. Democrats, don't sit on your laurels on this. You got a lot of work to do because people just don't like you either. They don't trust you. They don't like you. And, yes, you had a great night yesterday. Absolutely had a great, great day. And I think democracy had a great day. But if you take your foot off the gas, this could come back because there's a long time before 2026, those midterm elections. And those midterm elections, I think, will be those elections that'll determine what's actually going to happen in 2028. And I just cannot express how important, and we talked about this in a previous podcast, how important those elections in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court were to protect their election integrity. Some of those things that you just don't think of, but it's those small things. It's just those little small things that to the rest of the country may not mean anything. But Pennsylvania is a big state. Pennsylvania has a lot of electoral votes. That state not having their election integrity protected could impact your state's votes. They have enough electoral votes. They could probably wipe out five different states, their electoral college votes easily. So we have to keep our eye on the ball. I think the Republicans, that if I was to give advice to the Republicans, time to wake up and start governing the way you should be able to govern. And you can do it. Well, at least your predecessors were able to do it. I mean, I've always said, I remember that Republicans and Democrats could never agree on how to fix a problem, but they could agree on what the problem was at least. Right now, we're in two different universes as to, is there a problem or isn't there? And when you look out and you see the governor of South Carolina say, hey, you know what? We have to, as a community of South Carolinians, have to come together to help feed our less fortunate South Carolinians. That's a Republican that recognizes there's a problem out there. Maybe it's time to listen a little bit and, step up to the plate. Trump isn't going to last forever. Trumpism will probably be around for quite a long time. As I said, and I've always said, we beat Germany. We didn't beat Nazism. Nazis still exist out there, and I'm not comparing the two, but Trumpism is an idea. It will exist for quite a long period of time. It may never go away. It may never. But as long as it's kept as a fringe idea, then I think we have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity as a nation to turn this around. Now the question is, will we or won't we? Yes, Scott.
Yeah, so you gave advice to Republicans. I'm curious as to whether you think Democrats might want to change their leadership at the top. And I'm speaking specifically about the Senate, whether Schumer's time has come. And is there anybody who's in the Senate on the Democrat side that you would say, hey, that would be a good speaker? or that would be a good majority leader or minority leader now, and possibly a good majority leader later. I have the utmost respect for Schumer's political acumen and smarts. I've known the man my whole life. He was my assemblyman when I was a kid, state assemblyman. I've seen him go up through Congress into the U.S. Senate, and he has risen to the top of the U.S. Senate. And he always said up or out, and there's really no place else for him to go. Maybe it's time for him to get out. I would point to like a Sheldon Whitehouse, who, love his fighting spirit. I suppose maybe Amy Klobuchar, who I know you love, would probably make a fine.
That would have been. In fact, I have her picture right up here. That was exactly who I was going to say, Amy Klobuchar.
Okay. All right. I mean, who gives you the best chance to win the Senate back in 2026? That, I think, is a major question. But the American people have said that they don't like I think that this is what they're saying. They don't like the namby-pamby Democrats who go, the Democrats who went along with the not shutting down the government in March based on a promise by the Republicans that they would sit down with them and hash out the Obamacare supplements, the subsidies and the SNAP subsidies, and then never did. And they broke that promise in March. Why would we think that they're not going to break that promise now? We have to keep the government shut down until they come back and have these conversations and figure something out legislatively to do about the affordability of the Affordable Care Act. Right?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know who it is, if it's Schumer or if it's somebody else. But I do know that the American people like fighters. Newsom came out, pretty boy Newsom came out looking a lot tougher than Chuck Schumer did.
Yep.
The leader of the party can't be somebody who deliberately masquerades as an old Jewish booby, passing out wisdom and candy to the children. That's not what's needed right now, Chuck Schumer. What's needed right now is a fighter. And I know Chuck Schumer is a fighter, but he doesn't seem to have the fire in the belly anymore.
No.
And he certainly missed the boat on Mamdani. And I think that I honestly I can't believe I'm even saying this, but I think that he needs to step down and let somebody else pick up that seat.
I agree.
Yeah, someone young. And I also have a question. I mean, to me, the 2026 election has been made to become, because of the rhetoric, an existential election for both parties, with Stephen Miller saying the Democratic Party is terrorists and Hamas lovers, and I don't know what else he called the Democratic Party besides terrorists and Hamas lovers, but it was not complimentary, and it was criminals or something like that in the speech he gave, after Charlie Kirk.
I don't think it wasn't necessarily Stephen Miller, but one of the ads, I think that they ran in New York against Mamdani, called Mamdani the second worst thing that Muslims have ever done to New York since 9/11.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking about that ad. I was thinking about Stephen Miller's speech at the memorial for Charlie Kirk, right? So it's I mean, for the Democrats, this is a must win. 2026 is must win, but then for the Republicans, it's also become a must win because of the horrific outcomes of Trump and Trump policies, and of course what will happen to Trump if there is a duly elected Senate and House of Democrats. I guess Trump could always veto everything that all the legislation, but there would be investigations, I suppose, and so on and so forth. so it's become existential for both. And so I wanted to know what your views are regarding how that extreme polarization, I guess, and what seems to be an extreme, I don't know, threat to both parties for different reasons, what that might do as far as leaders go, and the need to replace leaders and like in the like in the Democratic Party.
Well,
I mean,
let me just take Scott's, question first before we get into all that. I know he's a big fan of Sheldon Whitehouse, and I think Sheldon Whitehouse is pretty sharp. I really do. Yes, Klobuchar would be probably my first selection because I really do think she's a fighter. I think she's articulate. Do I think she's as smart as Whitehouse? I don't think so. As far as, but I really do think that she speaks to the Democrat. She's willing to speak to the democratic values of the older type of values in a way that can relate to the younger people. I think sometimes Whitehouse is a little too clever for his own good. I've seen him on some of those Senate committees, and he asks great questions, of which to the average person would probably have gone over their head. Cory Booker, I think he's another one that's got a possibility. The only thing is, I think he's rather polarizing. Another one that might be a possibility that I'm pretty sure you like a lot, Scott, is Mark Warner.
Yeah, love him.
Mark Warner might be in that group. I don't think people like Bernie Sanders, absolutely, but he's an independent anyway. There's just some that you probably look at and say, no, not really. Mark Kelly, no. The funny thing is that when you look outside the Democratic Party, outside of the Senate, there's a lot of them there where you could say, boy, don't I wish he was a senator and could be the leader of the Senate. Adam Schiff, nope, too polarizing. That he's not gonna be there. Hickenlooper, nope. I mean, so there's this whole bunch that when you look down them, look down the list, you're just not going to get that dynamic, well-spoken, the ability to present in some ways historically ideological content in a way that could be understood in today, which I think is hugely important. I think that's hugely important for the Democratic Party, and so I'm going to stick with Klobuchar, and maybe Mark Warner. I don't know how big of a fighter he is, though, Scott. You know more about him.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Mark Warner. I think he's the real deal. I wish he had run for president. I think he always planned to, just never came about that he had the opportunity to do so. The problem with Mark Warner now is that he seems to have faded into the bushes a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure if that means that he's lost the sort of fire in the belly to come out there swinging. He used to be one of these guys that you could rely on to jump into the fray. And he may be one of the people, by the way, who's in this sort of like underground, meeting cabal that's going on between the Republicans and the Democrats to try to end the shutdown. I could see Mark Warner being one of those guys because he's usually one of these gang of people,
Yeah.
Right. So, but obviously you need a certain amount of tenure there as well. Seniority does matter in the Senate. So I'd put Booker probably more towards the back of the line. But he's an intriguing guy in a lot of levels. Certainly a believer, a true believer, and probably a fairly fervent progressive, I think. But it's hard to come up with somebody who has all the qualities that you would like to see. Tammy Duckworth, maybe?
No. I don't know. You know what? I'll tell you something. If she was still in the Senate, I would maybe put Kamala Harris on that list.
Yeah, probably.
If she was in the Senate, I maybe put her in that list. I mean,
while you're playing that game, we might as well say Hillary Clinton.
We could, yeah, if we were playing that game. Kristen Gillibrand, nah.
Is Kristen Gillibrand even alive? I've not heard anything from her.
Well, and you see, that's the interesting thing. We're talking about, like you mentioned about Mark Warner, we're talking about people that, really had a message and were there, and they're gone. Kristen Gillibrand, yeah, she's actually still alive, but you never hear about her.
Like, was she even involved in this Mamdani thing at all, or does she only represent upstate New York?
How much do you hear about Dick Durbin anymore?
Well, you see Dick Durbin, when it came to like the ICE coming to Chicago and stuff like that and get out of my state,
Well, yeah,
he was speaking up about that. But I mean, Dick Durbin, I don't think is the kind of guy that you want to go, yeah, we're going to rally behind Dick Durbin. Sorry, that isn't
But you used to always see like, Richard Blumenthal. He was on all of the talk shows all the time.
Yeah, but he's a twerp. He needs to go away.
I understand he's on twerp, but we're talking about those that have gone behind the curtain we don't see anymore. I mean,
the other guy, Chris Murphy, would be great. And I saw Chris Murphy was, I believe, at Forest Hills with Bernie and AOC and Mamdani. I think Chris Murphy was there that night. And Chris Murphy has a lot to learn from Bernie Sanders, and Chris Murphy should go out there and learn from Bernie Sanders how to do it, because I think Chris Murphy has a platform, is a young enough guy that he could become a galvanizing leader type, but he's got to learn how to do it from the old pros who really, you could hate Bernie Sanders by position, but you have to admit he's out there shouting about stuff all the time.
Absolutely.
Doesn't get by him.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. He is. He's out there, and you got to give him all the credit for that, because he does. He gets his message across, and he doesn't seem to be losing any steam.
No, definitely not.
Does not seem to be losing any steam. So
he's his brand of Geritol, whatever it happens to be, is working just fine.
Yeah, I agree. Tim Kaine? Nah. I mean, I'm just looking at the old ones that are in there, and I'm like looking at them going, wow, that really is. We've always said that the Democrats had a stronger bench, and they have a strong bench, but they don't have that Pete Alonso.
Yeah. Okay.
They don't have that Juan Soto or Francisco Lindor or Edwin Diaz, because we're going to reference the Mets here. They don't have those. They have a whole bunch of Jeff, this flying squirrel.
Oh, McNeil?
Jeff McNeil. They have a lot of Jeff McNeils. Really good utility guys. Really great utility guys. But as far as that guy that's going to lead the team to, victory, rah, 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 they don't really have that. And I'm going to say, and I know you like Whitehouse, and I know you like Warner, but like you said, Warner's been kind of amongst the missing. I'm going to go with Klobuchar.
Okay.
So, all right. So what was your question, Brooke? We got off on our little tangent there.
Now I don't remember.
Okay.
All right then.
That's fine.
Well, it had to do with the existentialism and the must wins for each, and I guess.
Brooke, existentialism out, pocketbook issues in. How about that?
All right.
We're not talking about the demise of democracy. We're talking about affordability.
Exactly. And I think that's, if we think about what made the Democrats have such a good time yesterday, it was that. And we said it before in the previous podcast. It was keep it simple, stupid, and don't talk about the demise of democracy, because most people don't even understand it anyway. I mean, let's remember, most of the people that we talk to, even our students, only have a 5th grade education as far as civics are concerned. The fact is, stick with hey, is your coffee too expensive? Is your gas too expensive? Trump says your electric bill went down. Mine, I just got another thing. Mine went up $50 every month.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. I was listening to the 60 Minutes interview that Trump had with Norah O'Donnell, and Trump keeps insisting that everything is better, everything is cheaper, there is no inflation. and I can't tell. That'll be another question to ask Dr. John Gartner, is that I wanted to ask that we didn't get time to ask in our previous podcast with Dr. Gartner, whether Trump is genuinely doesn't understand that, or is willfully being blind to that information.
Well, and you know what? That's a good question. Like we said when we were finishing up with John in the first segment of this, same question could be asked about the electorate.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the more important question.
Yeah.
Because it's the electorate that put him there. All right. Take us home, Brooke.
That's a good point. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for listening to us once more on the Nova Society. We look forward to you returning next time. Do please email your questions. Mark is so excited to get all those emails at midnight and going ding, ding, ding on his email, because he leaves his computer on and he can hear them all the time.
I'm not doing it anymore. I'm turning it off.
Turn it off. Turning it off. So please feel free to send emails any time of day or night, so that we can answer your important questions. And if you're not yet subscribed on the platform of your choice, please do so. Subscribing is free. And we look forward to seeing you again next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, BH Conflict Resolution Services, a full-service dispute resolution firm offering expert, cost-effective mediation services to couples, groups, and businesses. BHCRS can be reached at www.bhcrs.com.